This is the 2025 Maserati Grecale Trofeo, and it is a roughly BMW X3 sized SUV that has the heart of a supercar. It has the same engine as the Maserati MC20 and MC Pura. Although it makes a little bit less horsepower, it's still quite fast, but all of that power and all of that notoriety does come at a price. So what is this thing and is it worth it? Welcome to Out Motorsports, the channel for cars as you are. My name is Jake and let's get right into it. So first things first, we have to talk about platforms and platform sharing because yes, this is on a shared platform, but no, Brian, it's not just a tarted up version of your mom's Jeep Grand Cherokee. This is on the Alfa Grigio platform, which is from Alfa Romeo. Alfa and Maserati are both part of Stellantis, which is a global conglomerate of a lot of brands. And the platform underpins a lot of different Maseratis, the Gran Turismo, the Gran Cabrio, and this. However, it also underpins the Alfa Romeo Stelvio, and a version is used for the current Jeep Grand Cherokee, but it's not just as simple as saying, oh, well, the Jeep Grand Cherokee is the same as this and the same as the Stelvio, because they're not. They're all very different cars that use some underpinnings, some electrical architecture, and yes, this does have Uconnect, which is the Stellantis infotainment system. It's better than Maserati doing their own thing. We saw what happened when they did that like 20 years ago. Uconnect is fine. But in any case, this does have a motor that is unique to Maserati. It is the 3-liter twin-turbo Nettuno V6, and it is in things like the Gran Turismo, the Gran Cabrio, and more importantly, the MC20 and MC Pura. Now in this case, it makes 523 horsepower and 437 pound-feet of torque, which is sufficient. And you can get this in a lesser state of tune in the Modena trim. And for 2026, the 4-cylinder gets dropped. This did come with a 4-cylinder in its most base of trims, and in this case, you're not gonna get that anymore. You're going to have all Nettuno V6 powered versions of the Grecale. So I think that's great. This is a fun engine. I quite like it. It's not a Maserati V8, but you'll hear it here in just a second, and I quite like it. This is paired exclusively to a ZF 8-speed torque converter automatic and standard all-wheel drive with an electronic limited slip rear differential on that back axle. Of course, you've also got expected niceties at this price point, this type of car. You've got 4-corner air suspension, you've got 4-corner adaptive suspension, so the shocks will get stiffer and softer based on your drive modes. You have gigantic brakes, you have gigantic wheels. These are 21s in this case. And you can have this in a lot of amazing paint colors too. So I'm kind of bummed they sent me a black one, but either way, this is, I think, fairly good looking. It is generously sized for what it is. People kind of want to compare this to a Macan. It has a lot more space inside than a Macan, I think. I can fit behind myself in the back seat. So I wish this was a different color. They have this whole Forio Serie program where you can get all sorts of just incredibly bright, fun, punchy colors that are full of personality. The black is pretty in the sun, but you get like orange or purple or metallic color shifting everything. It's so cool. Anyway, it's black, but let's talk about the interior because there's some cool stuff going on in here too. I like it quite a bit. So first things first, with the Grecale's interior, they've got a lot of screens going on in here, and the headlight controls are in the touchscreen, which you all know I really hate. I think it's pointless and kind of unsafe, but in this case, one common issue I have with touchscreen headlight controls, namely, oh, I turned the headlights on manually for some reason, forgot they were on, got out of the car, and they're still on. They have solved for that, which I think is at least clever. So with a lot of cars, if you turned the headlights on and then you forget, you turn the car off, the screens obviously turn themselves off, and now you have to turn the car back on in some way, shape, or form to turn off the headlights. It's a waste of time, it's stupid, and it could be avoided by having a knob. Now, Maserati has figured out what to do for this. When you look at the car's screens, the car is off right now, I just opened the door, you'll notice that your default view when you open the door and the car is off is your headlight controls on this lower screen. I think, despite still wanting a real knob or something for the controls, I think that's smart. Let's talk about the rest of this. When you get in, you'll notice you've got some really nice looking sport seats. These are very comfortable. I like the kind of different styling going on here. And more importantly, they do have this pull-out thigh bolster, which is great. Both front seats have that. Now again, this interior is kind of boring in color, as is the paint color. You can have this in some pretty fabulous options as well, but this is just gonna be black on black. Now, as we hop in here, you'll notice my start button is on the steering wheel, and you put your foot on the brake and hit the button, I love all the wacky little sounds this car makes. That's part of the personality that it has, and I just think it's fabulous. That is one of them. The other one is with the turn signal sound. Give this a listen. Again, I just think there's little bits of personality baked in here that are just different and quirky and fun, and it makes you smile a little bit. And then with the rest of the interior, like I mentioned, it's going to be pretty screen heavy. This is a fully digital cluster with a few different options for what it can look like, and then over here you're going to have several other screens, including this guy, which is not just a clock, but can be several other things. So this is kind of fun. You can change this to be a compass, or it can show you how hard you are cornering with the G meter, or it can show you how hard you are pushing the pedals, which is kind of a neat little thing. I kind of just like it as a clock because I'm not taking this on the racetrack. But then looking further down, like I mentioned, this is just going to be Uconnect, which is frankly fine. It works really, really well. It has wireless CarPlay, wireless Android Auto. It's snappy, it's easy to use. Very, very okay with that. And then down here, this is going to control your climate controls, which I don't love having a screen for this, but it works pretty well. It reminds me kind of now outgoing higher-end Audis that have a separate screen for everything. This just works nicely. So generally, this is all going to persist. You can call up the rear climate control as well, your ambient lighting, your air suspension if you want that. A couple of things for the seats, namely just the memory seat settings, and then you've got, you know, some commonly used controls down here as well. I'm going to turn off the auto start stop because I hate that on every new car. And then looking back at the steering wheel minus that start button, these guys are going to control part of your screen. So this will control what you see on the leftmost dial, which is the tachometer. You can see a couple different things there, and then you can also control your cluster layout as well, so you can move to a few different styles there if you really want to. I kind of like the classic one, but some of these are, you know, more interesting, I guess, if you really care. In any case, you've also got controls over here. This does have the adaptive cruise control and other driver assist functionality, your drive mode dial, which will control what you've got for Comfort, GT Sport, Corsa if you're going racing in your Grecale. And what I like is this separate shock button. This you can push and it will actually let you stay in whatever drive mode you've got. You'll notice I've got the S shock setting here, but if I push the button, it will take the shocks out of their sport mode. Same if I go to Corsa. That's going to be the race mode if you want to race your Grecale, and you see it's got shocks in H, which I assume is for hard or something, but you can again take them back to sport if you want a little bit softer shock setting. So I think that's kind of nice as well. Now, couple things with this car. I mentioned price and is it worth it, and when you get in the interior, this one is missing some stuff. So this does have the Sonus Faber sound system, but it's the base one, not the upgraded one, which has more speakers, different tuning, perhaps a different amplifier. I don't know that part for sure, but it's the lesser of the two. It still sounds quite good. I'm also missing a heated steering wheel. I am missing ventilated front seats. I do not have heated rear seats. And, you know, fine, this is all optional equipment, but this, as equipped, this one I'm in is $124,000. With those options, you could pretty easily get it to $130,000 or a little bit above that. And then if you want one of those stunning paint colors I mentioned, those can add up to $15,000 on top of all of this. So you could pretty easily have a $145,000, $150,000 Grecale, and that's where I'm not so sure this is all worth it. However, I really like how it drives. I really like this engine. So let's hit the road and talk about all that. All right, so everyone wants to hear the exhaust on this, I'm sure. Like I said, it's not a Maserati V8, but it does sound quite good to me. I did try this with a camera mounted on the outside of the car, and I'm now -1 GoPro in my arsenal, so unfortunately we're not gonna get that. You're gonna get it from the inside of the car instead. We're in Corsa mode, so everything is turned up to maximum attack, and you'll hear it as best you can here. I'll try and slow down and get us a little runway, because the 0 to 60 on this is pretty wild. All right, and we're just gonna let this truck go. Now, in the name of safety, I think a full-on 0 to something would be ideal. So those exhaust blats just make me giggle every single time. I think they are so deeply silly. I love the way it's tuned, and it will do that even in the normal GT mode. It will still do that when you're really wailing on it. So I think this sounds good. I think this Nettuno V6 has a lot of personality, and I like the fact that even in this versus one of the sports cars, it still has a lot of that personality. Now I'm gonna go ahead and dial this back to the sport mode just because we're not racing this thing on a track, we're just driving on the interstate. Couple other things with drivability here. So you've got these giant shift paddles. They are nice, they are metal, they are huge. They work really well. The transmission responds to you whether you're in drive or the manual mode. However, them being here and this big means that your access to the stalks is a little bit difficult. So if you have smaller hands, you might have a harder time. That is going to be exaggerated if you enable the automatic high beams, because you do that by pushing the turn signal stalk away from you. That is a far reach for me, and I think I have large hands. So they're prioritizing the shift paddles here, which is admittedly kind of fun. You do have the manual shift mode over here. I don't love these piano key buttons. They're kind of like what Lincoln does, but Lincoln's not trying to be a sports car. And also, Lincoln does a better job at least letting you know where your key controls are, namely drive. So that's just a little interesting. But in the manual mode, you can use the shift paddles and they respond pretty well for this being a ZF. You get another one of those crazy shift blats. I think it's just fun. Now, the gears in this thing are long. If you're just running it out in third or fourth, it feels like third and fourth in particular are really, really long, and then you've got a lot of overdrives, which is fine, but you're gonna be doing extra legal speeds by the top of third, by the top of fourth, easily. So it's just interesting how they've got it programmed, how they chose the gearing for this car, but it's, again, it adds to the drama a little bit. Now, with all the overdrives, you might think, oh, this does okay on fuel economy. It's atrocious. I've been averaging 13.6. Granted, I'm driving a bit like what you're seeing now, but I did road trip this car. I've put 353 miles on it so far, and road tripped it home for the holidays and back, and even then, it's not getting especially great fuel economy. Granted, I am the first loan of this car. It showed up with 300 some miles on it, so any sort of combustion engine break-in period, this is, you know, just getting through it now. So fuel economy may pick up a little bit as this engine ages and breaks in a touch more. Now, as far as how everything else is drivability-wise, I do like this a lot. The suspension is stiff even in the GT mode. Even if you're in sport and take the suspension back to its comfort setting, it's going to be stiffer than a lot of other options. And I don't mind that. In the city, it can be a little much sometimes. You get a little head toss left to right over certain bumps, and that I don't love, but I really like how this is on the highway or on some big sweepy back roads. Where I went for the holidays is big sweepy back roads, and it just comes into its own. Kind of the more you've got room to let it run, the more you've got space to let it push. It just feels really, really nice, and everything kind of makes a lot more sense in that regard. The steering, some people have criticized for having a lack of feel. I think it's fine enough given this is an SUV and not one of their actual sports cars. And then the braking, the pedal feels great, good initial bite, good progressive travel with the bite that kind of loads up. You feel very confident when you are stopping, whether it's a lighter stop or a harder stop or even just slowing for a corner. And to that end, with the rear differential and all of that, it's easy to make this thing rotate. It wants to rotate. It does seem to lock up a little early for my preference, which makes it kind of axle hop in the back just a touch. Take a look at the clip of me doing the first acceleration run and you'll see what I mean. It kind of hopped quite a bit. Granted, it's cold out, the tires don't have the best grip, so that contributes to some of this. We should just hit it. But in any case, the differential is trying, it's doing what it can, but I think with the cold weather, it's just, it's not the best pairing in this particular case. But I think on a better day when it's a little warmer, or if you're pushing on a back road, it would really feel quite nice. It just feels a little goofy, tight parking lots, low speed. Every so often it does a little like lockup moment that you don't necessarily need or want. And then otherwise, the seating position in this is great for tall people. I love how I fit. I love the low dash and the low door sills. This is a very well designed interior, and I'm such a fan of how I fit. I like the electronics setup. Despite not loving screens, this all tends to work. This is the same setup they've got in the Gran Turismo and Gran Cabrio, if you've seen or driven one of the newer ones where they got the same interior setup. It all works pretty well, all things considered. So I quite like this as an overall vehicle. I think if you want a performance SUV, this is a really, it's a fun option. It's a different option. It stands out. Like I mentioned, you can get it in different colors. That price, though, is just a big hang-up of mine, especially because, unfortunately for Maserati, the company, their vehicles seem to depreciate a little aggressively, and, you know, you can find one of these pre-owned for not nearly what they cost new. Great news for people like me who like it and who might want to purchase one later, but that doesn't really help with sales overall. Let's talk about what this might compete against. BMW X3 M50, sure. Hotted up versions of the Porsche Macan, sure. What else? Audi SQ5, maybe. A Mercedes GLC AMG. Are they still doing those? I don't even know. I don't know. This is, you know, a compact-ish SUV. I think they use the interior space very well. So like I mentioned, it feels bigger in here than a Macan does. But regardless of that, this is just leagues above price-wise what its competitors are. And I think that's the single biggest difficulty in trying to swallow this Grecale-shaped pill. Because otherwise, I just love this. Maseratis have absolutely wormed their way into my heart. Between this and the Gran Turismo in particular, I really enjoy both of them. And I think they offer a little something different that other brands don't. They give you that personality, that quirkiness, the sounds, and you know, even this V6 not being a V8, it really does sound good, not just for a V6, but in my opinion, for anything performance-y. So I really like Maserati, the brand, and I like what they're offering, and this is another one I'm such a fan of. I just wish it cost like a third less. So those are my thoughts on the Grecale Trofeo. As always, thank you for coming along. Let me know how you would go shopping if you had money like this to spend on a car like this. Would you consider a Grecale in the first place, or is it just way too expensive and you think you would want to put your money elsewhere? And if so, what would you do? I'm very curious about all that. As always, be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe here on YouTube. Give us a follow on Facebook and Instagram, and head over to outmotorsports.com. We've got a bunch of really great events coming up starting in February at Atlanta Motorsports Park. We would love to have you for any and all of that. And we've got a great online community of fellow LGBTQ automotive enthusiasts and motorsports competitors. So head over there if you want to join and make a whole bunch of new besties. Till next time, stay safe, be well. See you again soon.